I'm Lisa Pierce, Executive Editor of Packaging Digest. And like some of you out there, I still have and use some Tupperware containers that I bought decades ago that are still in really, really good condition. And this is a good example of how durable plastic can have a long, useful, positive life that fits in with a sustainability mindset. Last November, Tupperware Brands announced its partnership with Loop, which is the circular shopping platform that's based on reusable and not disposable packaging. And through this new alliance, consumers are going to be able to purchase some retail products from leading brands in Tupperware containers bought on the Loop platform. Today I'm talking with a couple of key players in this development to learn a little bit more about it, and let me introduce them now. We have Bill Wright. Bill is the Executive Vice President of Product Innovation for Tupperware Brands. Hello, Bill.
Good afternoon. My pleasure to be here. I look forward to the discussion.
Great. And we also have with us Tom Szaky, who is the CEO of Loop and also founder and CEO of Loop's parent company, TerraCycle. Tom, it's good to see you again.
Great to see you, Lisa. Thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure. Well, let's get right into it. So as I kind of alluded to a little bit earlier, Tom, encouraged to see Loop recognizing the value of plastics for durable packaging, especially in light of the negative environmental image that plastic packaging has for many people today. And I'm wondering if you could tell us, how do you think this agreement is going to be received by the sustainability community and why?
It's a really good question. And I just want to sort of touch first on, the bigger point, which is that plastic is, getting, I think, unduly vilified. That's not to say plastic doesn't have an impact. It has a tremendous impact if it's not managed properly. But I don't believe per se, and this is sort of my personal opinion, that a material can be good or bad. It's whether it's an alloy, a glass, a fiber, a polymer. I think the key question is, how do we treat the material? What do we do with it? And I think why plastics have been so focused upon, and we're seeing even things like plastic bans and things of that nature in different regions of the world, or at least the discussion there too, is that it is very synonymous with single use. And so, I think the key issue that we have to very much focus on is not plastic as the question, but the idea of dishonoring any material, whether it be an alloy or a polymer, by using it once, and then even worse, potentially disposing it informally, and even if formally disposed, not having it recycled or go around in a circular fashion. And I think that is the real question to think about. So when Greenpeace puts up posters saying ban single-use plastic, I think the first word to focus on is single use, because frankly, a single-use container, no matter what it's made from, is typically not as good as a reusable one. So just especially as we think about how to to look at that narrative, and it also is, of course, very emotionally charged. At Loop, you're absolutely right. Our point of view as a platform for reuse is not about one material better than the other. It's about ensuring that leading manufacturers create reusable products that we define as 10 reasonable uses or more. And the very popular materials in that have been engineered plastics, so plastics that like the products that Tupperware or like the polymers Tupperware uses to make its products, plastics that can be used and have durability over many uses and can be cleaned so that it's also safe to be reused, as well as glass and alloys. Those are been the sort of three most popular areas. And what's so interesting, to the question on how is it received, I think that there is an emotional response around plastics, but I think the more people understand that it's this idea of single use versus reusable, the more they understand that plastic has an incredibly important role. So for example, as we deploy now with QSR locations, whether it be McDonald's or Burger King, there the choice material is engineered polymers. And the reason is that imagine if you put, coffee into an alloy container, your hand, will get very hot, or inversely, if it's, if it's a ice drink, then it will get very cold. Glass in an environment, has the chance of breaking, and then the health and the safety concerns associated with glass shards in a fast serve restaurant. So polymers have a huge role. What I think we really need to do, and this is why we're so excited with the partnership with Tupperware in Loop, is to highlight that plastics are not necessarily synonymous with single use, but they can be synonymous with products that are made to last, and can go around over and over. And do take a step back. There's so much plastic in our lives that is made to be reusable, from the computers we're speaking to you on, or the headphones in our ears, or so many things. Let's bring that point of view to how we package goods.
Okay, and as I had mentioned earlier, I still have Tupperware containers from long, long time ago. So the issue of them being durable and useful is, already been proven. So, Bill, tell us a little bit more, or a little bit about the recent transformation of Tupperware brands, and is that mostly centered on the circular economy?
Well, let me start with more of the history before I get into answering that question.
Sure.
Building on Tom's point and your point about the durability of Tupperware. This is our 75th year in existence. So, and I always joke, we're more durable than durables, right? Our products are built to last a prolonged period of time, and our quality standards and the resins we use, always have fulfilled that promise since the start of Earl Tupperware. So we're going to continue with that. And as I look at this, Loop and our relationship with Loop is just the next version of bringing this to consumers. And it builds on the No Time to Waste platform that we launched a couple of years ago now, which is really, engaging in trying to make sure that we minimize plastic waste in the environment and actually nurture our planet. So again, this is just a continuation of what we started a couple of years ago. Moving specifically to the transformation of Tupperware, yes, building on partnerships such as this and the circular economy are a portion of it, but it's never one thing, right? There's never a silver bullet as you start to transform a company. So it always starts with the people. And I have to say, the management team that we've brought in over the past year is focused on re-energizing this great brand. And you start with the fundamentals always, like you do in any organization, and they're building on the fundamentals we had here. In addition, they're pushing us to think different. And they're pushing us to think different in a couple ways. One, our brand is much broader than what we give it credit for. We can move beyond the categories we're in the channels that we're playing in today. And this partnership with Loop is a perfect example of that. We never would have considered ourselves packaging in the past, and we still don't. We're going to consider ourselves an integral part of a product. So it's a product with a product, and that's the way packaging should be looked at moving forward. So, and it's an alternative channel, it's an alternative product category. So again, we're just building on our past with the strong management team that we've brought in and these new thoughts that they brought with them.
Okay, great. As we look forward to how Tupperware is going to work specifically with Loop, is Tupperware going to do anything differently in how it makes its durable packaging or containers specifically for the Loop vendors? And perhaps maybe use your Eco Plus material instead of some of the other virgin petroleum-based polymers?
So, we're early stages of the relationship. And as I look at this, there's several different options. There's a quick to market, which we may do, looking at some of our existing products and seeing if they can fit with a brand partner. And, what we want to make sure, though, is whatever product we use as packaging, it's fit for its purpose. We never want to compromise on quality. That's what our reputation is built on, quality and design. So that could be one way to get to market quickly. Another way is we will develop bespoke packaging for specific brands, and we will make sure, again, they meet our quality standards. They meet the quality standards that Loop is setting up and also that the brand partner is setting up. So again, never compromise on that quality and always look to delight the consumer in the end. So Eco Plus material.
Yes, if you could tell us a little bit about that. I just realized that I know what it is, but people who are listening may not.
Okay, so the EcoPlus material is something we launched in 2019, again, a couple years ago, and we continue to build on this. It's any resin, and again, as you hear me talk, I don't really say plastic very often. I always talk resins because these are
Okay.
actually highly engineered substances that we're talking about, right? And people underappreciate the resins that most companies use, and especially for Tupperware. But when we talk about the EcoPlus, they're recycled, renewable, sustainably sourced content is what's going in to make up the resins. So it could be regrind from our own facilities, recycled material that's coming in. It could be resins developed by eco-friendly materials from the paper industry, pulp waste that flows through, or it could be circular in nature, something coming from a circular polymer. So those all flow into the category that Tupperware refers to as EcoPlus.
Okay, Bill, you said renewable in there. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? You're looking at, and you said paper-based, is that the renewable kind of polymer you're looking at?
That's one of them, right? It's a waste product from the paper industry that is more of a bio-based resin that we use in cases under EcoPlus. But the one that most people think of Tupperware out when we talk about the circular polymers is really coming from a company, a brand partner with us called Szaky. They've been a long-time resin supplier with us. And it's actually a polymer or a resin developed from a process that's been around for a long time, where you actually melt waste plastic down to the molecular level, and it forms something called tack oil, right? And this is a patented product from a UK-based company called Plastic Energy Limited that then goes into a facility, Sabek's facility in the Netherlands, and they actually developed this resin with this tack oil that was derived from low-grade, plastic waste coming back to them.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for a little bit of the technical details there. I was going to ask a little bit more about the origin of the materials and things like that. So it's good to know that you've got that portion of the supply chain already figured out. So one of the things about Loop is that the packages, reusable packages in Loop, are used many times, and they go through cleaning cycles between uses. So how many industrial cleaning cycles do you anticipate that the new Tupperware branded packaging sold within the Loop platform is going to be able to endure?
That was one of our first questions when we started to partner with Loop. And as we go through some of the brainstorming sessions that we're working on now, that's one of the first questions that always comes up. What is the expectation of our brand partner? So that's the first thing we want to know is, our consumer, our customer, are these brands, and what are their expectations? And then the next thing we want to know is what technically, from a cleaning process perspective, does Loop put the packaging through when it's returned to them? So as we're looking at this and we're better understanding it, we're sure, based off of our past experience, as you said, you have containers for in cases, many, many years. Our quality standards and our internal testing will definitely meet the requirements of any brand partner today. So if you're talking about 20, 30, 100, our products and the packaging that we're going to develop with Loop and the brand partner will easily meet those requirements.
I just want to build on what Bill's saying here, and this is one of the things that we're so excited about in the partnership with Tupperware is that, as you zoom out and you look at resin-based reusable containers, and I think, by the way, the choice of the word container versus package is incredibly appropriate here. There are many companies, if you zoom out and see them on a photo, may look very similar, but they are fundamentally different when you actually start evaluating technically how durable they are, resilient to wear and tear, and things like falling off a shelf in a store environment or just the normal use for a consumer. And then also the incredibly high rigor of cleaning, where you are adding temperature, pressures, and chemistry to be able to clean packaging to the highest standards. And this is where, for us, the care that you're hearing Bill talk about on quality and design is so important. especially in an environment that has so much crowding of just people who, try to make a mold and make it look, at the right color and so on, but it may not be able to live up to the standards that are required by the consumer product industry and the standards that we're setting as a new standard for reuse. So for use cycles, Loop sets a minimum of 10 reasonable uses to be allowed into the platform. But to Bill's point, the many package forms, so what we're very excited about with Tupperware, can get into the hundreds of uses. And what's really exciting about using reusables versus disposables, beyond just the sustainability benefit of avoiding, the garbage crisis and also having a net reduction in carbon in almost all cases, is the opportunity to increase quality and delight for the consumer. So this is done in what materials are used and what capabilities those materials have, even simple things like could they be heated at home, can they be cooled at home, all the way to the actual design so that you can serve perhaps that product in the container itself versus having to scramble in your kitchen and serve it in a serving container. And all these things come together where the more uses one can get out of the package, the lower the cost per use. And that actually allows the investment in the package to grow. And that can bring out incredible innovations that don't exist today in packaging. Innovations that help you keep your product fresher longer or at temperature longer or whatever is the important aspect for that consumer. And to me, I'm as a Loop standpoint, I'm really excited sort of as to watch the process unfold between Tupperware and the brand partners that we will be engaging with, and see these two world-class experts come together and dream up things that will really delight consumers in a way that disposable packaging just simply doesn't have the capability to, when you have to pay for the entire package in the price of your product.
Yes, and I cannot wait to see some of that innovation. So speaking of these partnerships with the brands, is there any news to share on that front? Are you working with any brands that you can talk about yet?
So nothing that we can share here in a public forum, but we very much look forward to upcoming news, over the coming months and quarters from now. One of the really exciting things in Loop is that the retail community is really leaning in a very, very big way. While the years of 2019 into 2020 were all about bringing it to life, announcing it, making it available now in the UK, US, and France through online testing platforms like loopstore.com. The real theme of 2021 is retailers now really moving into an in-store environment. You're going to see, well, already Loop is in-store with Carrefour in France, seeing tremendous results. But you will see in-store with Tesco in the UK, Kroger in the US, Walgreens in the US, all the way to Eon in Japan, even Woolworths in Australia. And in fact, just in a week from now, we're launching Loop in Canada with Loblaw. So there's this global ecosystem, being created. And what's exciting about that is it really brings Loop to the next level where it's going to start being available at scale. And moving away from what the first few years have been, which is learning and experimenting and gaining a lot of insights from how brands, retailers, and consumers adopt the platform. So now is the time for these sorts of partnerships where brands are moving away from what is a test package going to look like to what am I going to scale up with. And really making sure that we build, and this is where it's so important, this type of partnership with Tupperware, an ecosystem that makes it easy for a company like, let's say, Nestle, who in many of its categories has never done reusables before, and to make sure that process can be as smooth as possible, especially when we're doing so with a much larger denominator in play.
Very consistent growth, and to me, logical and controlled growth of the Loop business moving forward, Tom. So congratulations on that. I know you got that nailed down.
Well, trying to maintain it, but in the end, I would say that Loop simply can't do any of this on its own. It is the an example where it's not just a really well-functioning multi-stakeholder collaboration. It must be a multi-stakeholder collaboration. And our role at Loop is to bring all these wonderful actors like Tupperware, like brands like P&G and Nestle, retailers like your Kroger, all the way to Carrefour, and also major industrial partners like Ecolab, who've now become our primary cleaning vendor. Bring all these great actors together and simply be the glue, that allows everyone to collaborate in this new platform. Because The challenge with reuse is there's no operating platform today. There's no definition globally for what is reusable. There's very few safety standards. And because of that, any reuse supply chain must operate as a mono supply chain. So for example, in America, here propane tanks are a scaled reuse ecosystem, as are beer kegs and as are, say, 5-gallon water. But you can't mix those. You can't take your propane tank to the beer place and your beer keg to the water place and your water to the propane tank place. And so they stay narrow, and they can't have the opportunity to actually be a competitive force against single-use consumption, because in single-use, your garbage can doesn't care where you bought the product, nor does your recycling bin. And that's exactly the missing element that Loop is trying to achieve. And then getting the right partners together, it's really magical to sort of see how it takes a life of its own. And for me, I'm incredibly excited to see what's going to come out with the Tupperware partnership, especially as we collaborate with brands, because it will also inspire other brands on what can you do with resins that were not thought about before. Because in packaging today, what's the big mega trend? Lightweight and cheapen. That's about the biggest packaging trend since the 1950s that has consistently stayed with us, is how do we reduce cost? And then the joke is everything will one day be a pouch or some form of flexible material, and that's sort of where everything is trending towards. Here, we can take the completely opposite point of view with an approach like Tupperware that people use. They just have never thought about it in the context of buying their goods already filled in a Tupperware container. We simply just do it in our homes today. And this is so taking a very common understanding and shifting it ever so slightly to create a profound change.
Okay, excellent. Bill, earlier you talked a little bit about maybe some new areas for Tupperware, and I'm looking at it from the point of view right now of different markets, as Tom was talking about earlier, food that you can not only store the product in, but also microwave it in there and serve it on a table and then go from there. So food obviously is a no-brainer market for Tupperware because we've been using Tupperware for food forever. What other markets do you see specifically with this partnership with Loop? What other markets are you maybe targeting?
There's two that come to the top of my head right away. First of all, the companies that are delivering from restaurants today. Within the COVID environment, many restaurants aren't open, but they have this takeout business or they have the delivery business. So most of these are coming in single-use plastic containers that end up in landfill somewhere. So finding a way to partner with some of these bigger firms and develop a packaging, a container that can then be reused, brought back into the circular cycle, cleaned and used again at those restaurants or other restaurants. So that's one it's a no-brainer. It should be simple to solve if we can find the right partners. The other one that's probably a little bit more difficult but an even bigger opportunity are some of the restaurant chains that Tom mentioned, like Burger King, looking at their single-use packaging. So you order, I'll use Burger King again since Tom brought it up, a Whopper, right? And it comes in some type of container that ultimately ends up in a landfill. So can we come up, and my patent attorneys always hate when I brainstorm live, but can we come up with some form of resin-based packaging that maybe has folds in it that gets shipped flat to the restaurants? They fold it right there. They put the product in. They sell the product. The consumer takes it home, takes it back to a TerraCycle location, flat, delivers it flat. We put it in. They clean it at Ecolab, and again, it gets right back into the entire circle again. So those are a couple quick options that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, so it does sound like Tupperware is open then, in addition to the wonderful partnership that you have established with Loop, that you're open to creating packaging for any brand owner that's looking for a durable plastic container.
Again, as long as it continues, to fill our purpose as a company, right? And when we talk about, our purpose as a company, one of them is really, developing, designing long-lasting products that, people are going to love, for a prolonged period of time. So as long as it falls within that, it's still heading in the right direction for us. So, we're open well beyond the Loop platform to develop, I wouldn't call it packaging, but as I said before, a product with a product that can be used for a prolonged period of time.
Okay, excellent. According to the press announcement that went out, I believe in last November, the Loop Tupperware partnership is intending to launch in 2021. Do you have a particular date in mind yet, or is it all kind of up to the brand owners?
So here I would just again stay tuned, sort of keep it very suspenseful, but we very much look forward to answering that question at the right time in a very exciting way. So my apologies that we can't share that here, but I hope you have seen that what the companies that come around Loop, what they put out in incredibly short period of time is incredibly inspiring and unbelievable. So you should expect the same quality of execution and I'd say delightful surprise in the sense of it's may not be exactly what what is always expected. And I do want to echo, by the way, what Bill mentioned as well, which is this area of takeaway. During COVID, we are consuming 30% more disposable goods. It's a frightening number, and recycling systems are disrupted during COVID due to low oil prices and the need to have people manually interact with waste may force some MRFs and recyclers to pause their operations during the pandemic. So we're creating more waste and we have less solutions to it, and so I think people are realizing this and they're waking up to it. And in fact, if you look at the legislative environment, especially in Europe, we are seeing, especially in the sector that Bill mentioned, in restaurants, the banning of single-use packaging. For example, if you eat in a restaurant, France has a law coming into effect, I believe, in a year from now, that if you are going to eat in, whether you at a Starbucks or a McDonald's or a Burger King, you must be served in reusable packaging. Which is quite a disruption, all the way to the city of Valencia in Spain and the islands in the Mediterranean, all together banning single-use plastics within a year and a half, so they won't be allowed to be sold in those regions. And this is just the beginning. We're going to see more and more of this. And so, also very happy to share that just recently, and this echoes, sort of the innovation around takeaway restaurant packaging, started a partnership with Metro, which is a major B2B distributor. And the products that are being targeted there are exactly what Bill said, takeaway food packaging, along with cleaners for janitorial services, as well as large format, restaurant type food packages. So your 10 kilos of ketchup and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of areas that we need to bring this to, because disposability has brought out so much convenience and affordability that that reuse, which used to be very big in the world, until about 1950, has taken a little break. And so we always have to go country by country, product by product, to help bring this back to life and almost re-educate people on the virtues of reuse, and then to make sure that we can offer that in a way that is as convenient and as affordable to single use. Because if we can do that, the actual quality and experience of these new containers cannot be touched by single-use alternatives.
Mm-hmm. And I think your timing in all of this, Tom, has been impeccable. Really,
say unconsciously very lucky, but there is a big factor of luck in any business enterprise. So we are thankful to the stars aligning.
Yes, and you know what they say, it's better to be lucky than good, right? Anyway, also in the press announcement, Patricio Cuesta, who's the president of commercial worldwide at Tupperware Brands, said this: this partnership also allows us to learn more on how to address single-use plastic in the packaging of our own products to make it more sustainable for the future. That's the quote. So my question is, when working with the consumer product goods companies to develop reusable packaging, Tupperware branded reusable packaging for the Loop platform, who's going to own the design, and how are you going to handle maybe some of the intellectual property details?
Again, for that, I think we have to align with the brand partners, first of all. And then, that's always part of the negotiation. Who's going to own the designs and, and the IP on these things. It's really the bigger purpose that I'm concerned about, which is, how do we minimize single-use plastic and the waste that provides to our environment? So the details of, IP and ownership of IP comes secondary to that overall purpose. So still to be worked out. And, as far as learnings from the industry, right? This is, anytime you move into a new endeavor, one of the things you want to do is learn. And working with some of these huge brands, smaller brands, we will learn from them, both on their filling processes and the requirements of that, the cleanliness that's required during that process, the cleaning that Loop and Ecolab can teach us in some of those requirements. All of these things will build and allow us to actually develop better Tupperware products in the future too. So again, we see this mutually beneficial for both this initiative and the products that we'll launch within our own business.
Okay, excellent. And I'm going to end with one final question, I guess, for Tom, for you. So you've said before that we couldn't have a more qualified partner than Tupperware to be our first plastics container brand partner. That's your quote.
Yes.
Does that mean that there's going to be more durable plastic packaging coming for Loop and its brand partners?
Absolutely. So not only will there be, but there already has been. So for example, Cascade dish soap is today in Loop, packaged in an engineered polymer or engineered resin container. All the way to Nature's Path granola is packaged in a durable, cleanable resin container. So not only yes, but already has been. Here's what's different and special about this particular partnership versus what we've done with any other resin producer, or at least our partners have, because in the end, in the Loop ecosystem, the partners choose their packaging suppliers and Loop approves. I can't even tell you the names of those who made those two containers. I don't know. And isn't that interesting in packaging? Does a consumer know the name of even big packaging companies like Apla or Bemis or Sunoco? Does any consumer on the street, would those words mean anything to them? Even though in the industry we know exactly who those are. But what's really interesting is every consumer knows Tupperware. And this is the special aspect, is it's not only everything we spoke about, but there's one last thing that this opens up, is that it's branded containers. It's exactly what Bill said. It's a known product in a known product. And that hasn't been explored yet, the power and the potential of effectively branded containers to house branded goods. And I think that can be a very interesting exploration over time that could also, frankly, open up learnings and opportunities for any package or container supplier in the future, because right now they're mostly unknown back-end partners who only if you are in the industry would you know those names.
Mm-hmm. The only example that I can think of right now that's similar to that is Ziploc, the reusable for flexible packaging, the reusable zipper, press to close too.
I think you're absolutely right. And I'll give you one, the only one so far Loop has commercialized that is a branded container example is a partnership with Kohler, where Clorox, for its wipes, packaged in a incredibly beautifully designed container made by Kohler. Now that is an example of an alloy stainless steel container, but there it wasn't just here's Clorox or Clorox wipes in this cool unnamed container, but it was Kohler design partnership with Clorox to bring about the best wipe experience you can possibly have. And actually, even before COVID, it was doing phenomenally well. Then, during COVID, sold out incredibly fast. And I think this is exactly what we are embarking now with resins, with Tupperware, is that it's more than just a supplier. It's much, much more than that. It is a known brand that has tremendous value in it, and has been something that's a part of our culture for, as Bill said, over 75 years. And there's a lot of know-how and experience that comes in that time, which you simply can't get from a off-the-shelf startup who is trying to make a plastic container.
You are making a lot of other packaging material suppliers very happy with that comment. And moving forward, no pressure, guys, but you're playing this up pretty big, so we're going to expect to see a lot of really incredible things coming out of this partnership. Looking forward to that, and hope that you do think of Packaging Digest for some of those scoops when the news is ready to be released. Gentlemen, Bill, Tom, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Are there any final thoughts that you want to leave us with?
Well, just to leave you with one, and then pass to Bill, is that just as you said, I personally am, and I think all of us are expecting some pretty exciting things. And maybe the next time we connect, we can invite a brand partner, to this conversation to share what their experience has been like in bringing what exactly we spoke to life, because there's so much to this. A big aspect, as Bill had mentioned earlier, is the idea of how do you fill these containers at scale on high-speed production lines, and to really think through how do you not disrupt these very precise and honed supply chains while bringing something like this, into the marketplace. So I very much look forward to the next time we have a chance to talk about this really exciting partnership.
Me too.
Absolutely. Building on Tom, and again, it won't be long. It'll definitely be in 21. And, the discussions are moving quickly, and the opportunities, I think, are vast, as Tom has mentioned, not only, in the known industries that we talked about, but some of the ones that people don't necessarily affiliate Tupperware with. So, we're looking forward to not only this partnership, but the partnerships that will be built as a result of working with Lou. So, again, Lisa, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and, and the opportunity to talk to you, and look forward to the next time when we have the next announcement.
Me too. Bill, Tom, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.